Well, good morning, everybody. It's a bit windy today, but we're reading through 1 Kings 8, 2 Chronicles 5. And so here, Israel has her temple. She has her temple. Everybody's happy. It's either comparable or larger than the temples of other gods. And Solomon, in the dedication, now asks the Lord um, to link himself to this temple. That would allow people to focus. Focus is a big thing. That's why we close our eyes when we pray, so that we can focus. So he wants an object, and this is why we tend to make objects, paintings and such, and the border on idols. And when Moses, the whole thing with the serpents that were killing the people, and God told Moses to craft a serpent on a stick, on a pole, and lift it up, and whoever gazed on this as an act of faith would be healed, because that would focus them. And so the temple was to be a focus point, that when people prayed, they would turn in the direction of the temple, and they would pray. And Moses asking the Lord to tie himself to this thing, that whenever people prayed, the Lord would respond to them. And the Lord actually did agree to this. So, and this was the case for a very long time. Thousands of years. This is what they did. So imagine what it was like for Jesus then to come along and say to the Samaritan woman that a time was coming when it wouldn't matter people worshiped. They wouldn't matter in Samaria. They wouldn't need to pray in Samaria, which she was advocating for. They wouldn't need to pray or worship in Jerusalem, which is what the Jews said that they must do. Instead, Jesus said that the time was coming when people would worship in spirit and truth, everywhere and anywhere. No big deal to us, right? Because we've been living this for a long time, and we understand this, and so we kind of shrug our shoulders. But imagine if you were standing there, and this was a central dividing point for the Samaritans and the Jews. Imagine you had been raised on this by your grandparents and your parents, and this was your understanding. And Jesus comes along and says, neither location is important, because the Father wants. He's looking for worshipers who will worship Him in spirit and truth. He's looking for worshipers who will worship Him in spirit and truth. That's amazing scripture. That is. Now, we should, we should be able to shrug our shoulders at this. This is a no-brainer for us. But I'm wondering if it really is. A lot of us reserve our worship and our conversation for a certain period of the day. There's a lot of people who don't think that they can pray and they can worship in any other place than their church. And we know that the corporate worship is really awesome and powerful, and the manifest presence of the Lord is there. But we don't have to wait for that time, because we worship Him in spirit and truth. We worship Him in spirit and truth wherever we are, because soon enough, Jesus is indicating that it won't be about the temple building, it'll be about the temple body, that our God takes up residence in us. We become that temple. This body that houses us for a temporary period of time also houses our God, as long as there's air in the lungs. For those of us who have been birthed in the Spirit, this isn't the case. This isn't a universalism truth. This isn't, God does not dwell in all things and in all people. He dwells in His children. He lives in His children. and it's his children are those who are born of the Spirit. We can only be birthed into the kingdom by the Spirit, and so this is the truth that we live, and so we worship Him in spirit and truth wherever we are. But I just pray that we understand that, and we do that all the time. Have conversation with Him all day long. Stop and worship Him in those moments of our day when we just feel overwhelmed with gratitude, or just when we want to be reminded of who we serve and who He is, and how He overcomes all things, and we can overcome over all things because of Him in us. So something to consider, reflect on, and seek after today. You guys be blessed. Love you all. Miss you.